Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 87 of the Rise Up and Share Your Medicine podcast. I'm so excited. I honestly can't believe it's episode 87. Sorry, I'm getting a little message here. Okay. That's like almost 100. I think I want to do something special when we get to episode 100. Thank you so much, all of you who have been here with me since the beginning, episode 1, even before that. And welcome to any new viewers. I'm so excited. So today, well, before I say that, no, let me go ahead and say that. Today we're going to talk about knowing what you want. This is so essential. It seems so obvious, right? Like, obviously, like I need to know what I want, but it's not that simple. There's a lot of things that get in the way, specifically three that I'm going to talk about that get in the way of us truly knowing what we want. So I'm going to talk about that. What are the things that get in the way of knowing what you want, and what to do when you really feel stumped or you're unsure or you're unclear on what it is you want. Because without knowing what you want, it's impossible truly to achieve it, to get it, to receive that desire, that longing of your heart. So, before anything else, my name is Lisa Espinosa. I am a spiritual career coach. And what I do is I help my clients who are sensitive and are intuitive, but maybe they feel blocked, maybe they feel overwhelmed, or maybe they feel confused, but they know that they have gifts and talents and what I call their unique soul's medicine to share with the world. And they just need help unblocking so that they can share it in with the most impact, with boldness. I'm going to be talking about boldness a lot in future episodes. So if you're interested, if you need help, I would love to talk. I offer a free breakthrough consultation. You can go to my website, lisaespinosa.net, under free session, or I will also put the link. I believe my May slots are filled up, but I'm about to open slots for June. And if I don't have anything open up, you can always message me or send me an email and say, hey, I want to schedule a breakthrough consult. How do I do that? All right, so let's get started with today's teachings. I do have a little sheet of paper of notes just to, in case what do I want to say? I don't, obviously, here in these episodes, I'm not going to share everything. That would just be overwhelming, right? It's like when you go to a buffet and you stuff yourself. I mean, sometimes that's fun, I guess, but you've had that experience where you leave and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so full, I can't even move. Ultimately, that's not really healthy. So same here. I want to just give you a piece of the pie that's really valuable for you that you can implement right away. And then if you want to learn more, there's so many offerings I have, and you can always schedule a breakthrough consult. So what are the things that get in the way of you knowing what you want? Now, before that, let me clarify. When I say knowing what you want, I really mean the true desires of your heart, the true desires of your soul. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Because those desires, right? Because knowing what you want is knowing what you desire, are there for a reason. So, one of the first things, the blocks knowing what you want, is just old programming that makes it really confusing, especially for women, especially for women who have this longing to help and be of service. It's interesting, right? How one of the things that can get in the way of us being in service is these old programming that has you rescuing others or always putting everybody else's needs before your own. And although that sounds like a really beautiful thing, when it's coming from a programming, when it's coming from fear of disappointing others, when it's coming from codependency, it actually holds you back. So if you growing up or even as an adult, you were told that, well, you really, what you want is what other people want, right? Your desires are what other people's desires are. Like your job is to make everybody else happy. It can really be hard to know, what do I want? There are so many times when I have, especially when I'm meeting with potential clients, right? When they set up a breakthrough consultation with me, and they know, they have a vague idea that they know they want to help people, that they know that, I mean, they've already been helping people, but they want to help them in a deeper level. But other than that, they can be very confused or blocked. Now, I do want to clarify one thing. This is really important, and I write about this in my book. There are times in your evolution, in your spiritual journey, where you don't know, where your soul has put you in this container of waiting, right? Where you're just supposed to hold steady, where you don't know what's next. So for example, when I left my career as a middle school teacher back when I lived in Chicago, I had a vague idea of what I was going to be doing. But those first 3 months after I left, when the new school year began and I didn't go in to teach my seventh graders, all I wanted to know was like, what's next? What's next? What's next? But my soul just kept saying, wait, hold on. And it wasn't that I didn't know what I want. It was my soul knew I needed to heal. I needed to release a lot of things before I could receive the next step. So that's not what I'm talking about here. Okay. What I'm talking about here, and maybe I'll do a podcast episode about that when we're in the waiting mode. But right now I'm talking about when you truly are like, I don't know what I want, or it's like, it's so blocked, right? By being afraid that people are going to judge what you want, or that, well, what I want is other people to be happy, that it's like buried in there. And so that's one of the things that blocks it, right? Old programming or perfectionism. That's another, that's very interesting, because it can be that you for so long have thought that you want this certain thing because of perfectionistic tendencies, right? Like, I want to be so super successful and have 30,000 followers on Instagram and, have a global following. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of those things, right? There's nothing. If that is your desire, absolutely. But sometimes those aren't truly our desires. We think we want that because that's what being successful appears to be, right? So sometimes we have to kind of sort through that, right? So that's one of the overlays. It's kind of like old programming. The other thing that can really get in the way is this belief that you can't get what you want, right? That's so interesting, right? That it's like, well, you really can't get what you want. Or maybe sometimes you can get what you want, but you can't always get what you want. But this is the thing I want to remind you of. And that's why I said in the beginning that I'm talking about those desires that come from your soul. If those desires in your heart, whether it's to write a book, whether it's to start your own business, whether it's to share a healing modality that you've created, whether it's to open up a healing center, whether it's to share your art with the world, I don't know, whether it's to work with your clients, but in a slightly different way, in a way that provides more prosperity for you, in a way that doesn't deplete you. I mean, whatever the desire is, when it is coming from your soul, you're meant to have it. Like, why would your soul put a desire in your heart just to say, like, but too bad, you can't get it? I mean, that would be like a real kind of sociopathic sort of soul, right? But we have a loving soul. We have a wise soul. So any desires that are placed in your heart were placed there for a reason. Were placed there because you are meant to fulfill those desires. So we need to clean up that belief that, well, you can't always get what you want. You have to lower your standards. No, that is not true. Now, like I said earlier, are there things sometimes that you might think, I remember in particular, back when I was a teacher, there was this one opportunity that I tried out for that I really, really thought I wanted. But it wasn't about the actual opportunity. It was just about an aspect. It would give me some time to focus on a project I wanted to complete. And I thought that was the only way to get it. Like, in my mind, I was like, I have to get this opportunity, because if I get this opportunity, then I'll have time to finish this project. And I did all the things that needed to happen, and I got so close and I didn't get it. Now you could say, well, that was a desire in your heart, but you didn't get it. But now looking back, I realized that was not a desire in my heart. My desire in my heart was to complete that project. And I ended up doing that because my soul was actually, you need to leave teaching. Like, your time here is done, right? So like, you've been a seventh grade teacher for almost 10 years. That was absolutely part of my life's work. And then my soul said, and now it's time to leave. So understand that there are wants in our heart that come from our ego or our intellect or different parts of us. And so if those doors get closed, it's just because your soul's like, no, there's something better. But that's not what I'm talking about. Here I'm talking about those soul desires that the desires that your soul placed in your heart. So I want you to think about in this moment, take a moment, Roxana, hello. Those of you who are here live or watching the replay, take a moment to really think about, what are those desires in your heart right now? And if you're like, I don't know, or you start to get anxious, like sometimes that happens, especially when I first start working with new people, that when I ask them that question, it's almost like this panic fills them, like, oh, I don't know what I want. Again, it's the old programming, it's the old wounding. There's also, I forgot to mention this, fear of being judged, fear that your desire is too much, it's selfish, or people are going to judge your desire. So it's very normal. So you can start to see how it's so normal to have confusion around our desires, but it's actually the simplest thing. So again, when you pose that question for yourself in this moment, just notice what comes up. Maybe right away you're like, yep, I know what I desire. This is it. Or maybe you're like, I don't know. I just get filled with anxiety, or I get filled with worry or confusion, or my mind goes completely blank. Oh, because I remember another thing. One of the reasons also that we can actually not want to admit our desires is the fear of being disappointed, right? That you could say like, oh gosh, I really desire. So for example, I'm writing my second book, as many of you know, and I have a lot of desires around that book, right? I really have this longing that when it comes out, when I release it, that it's going to help a lot of people, that it's going to have a global reach, not just in the United States, but all over the world, right? It's like a desire I have that it's going to, I don't know, somehow like really help, especially women, rise up in their own life, right? That maybe there'll be book groups that people create based on my book. There's all these longings and desires. And for me, it's courageous for me to even admit to myself that I have those, let alone say them out loud, because what if it doesn't happen? What if I write my book and nobody reads it? What if I write my book and 3 people read it? What if it's a flop? What if it doesn't work out? So a lot of times we don't even admit our desires because we think like, oh, that would kill me. Or I would be so humiliated, or I would be so embarrassed, right? I don't want that. So I'm just not going to know my desires. I'd rather just not know. And so again, that's a very normal human thing to do. But what you have to remember is that your desires are here not just for you. When you fulfill your desires, people in your life will be blessed, because your soul never guides you to go for something that's not going to bless the whole world. Truly, your soul is not selfish. So any desire you have will bless the whole world. Even if in the moment you're like, well, I don't know. What if, like, again, going back to my example, when I left teaching, I had a lot of guilt because I really, still believe and know that teaching is such a noble profession. There's such a need. I loved a lot of parts of my work as a teacher. I loved my students. I knew, by that point, I knew the families in that school. I had worked in the same school for almost 10 years. So I knew the families. I taught so many siblings of new teenagers that were going to be in my class possibly. So I had a lot of guilt that was like, oh my gosh, like if I follow this longing in my heart that's saying that it's time for me to leave this job, I'm going to be letting down all these people. I'm going to be leaving a profession that's so noble, that's so needed. But when I would tune in, I just knew, and that's where that understanding came, that I knew, wait, my soul just kept reassuring me like, Lisa, yes, you're going to leave this, but you're going to step into something, your next level of service. And of course, now 15 years into my spiritual business, I can see like, oh my gosh, I've helped so many more people. I had to leave that. That was part of my preparation for the work that I do now. So same thing for you. Your soul would never give you desires that are going to hurt others. Maybe in the moment, I had students. I remember a student that I loved And she was like, wait, you're leaving? My sister was about to be in your class. She was so excited. And I felt so bad. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But it was like, so there might be that. But part of spiritual maturity is being with our own disappointment and other people's disappointments and holding steady and still following our soul's guidance. And so, how do you know what you want? Ken, it sounds like such a simple thing. Oh, and just to finish that thought that I was saying before, this exercise, this practice of knowing what you want is like, I know that the ego, that other people can really think like, oh, that's like so selfish, like spending time knowing what you want. Yeah, you need to go help other people and you need to focus on others. But again, your desires are the blueprint, are the map of your soul's medicine. Your desires were put there by God, by the divine, by spirit, by Goddess, creator, creatrix, by your soul. That's how you remember your soul's medicine. And I want to show you the card I pulled. I have this, I know some of you have seen this new deck I'm using, Wild Woman Rising. And I pulled it for this podcast episode. I got Remember Who You Are. Look at this. And I thought it was so perfect because your desires, your wants are pointing you back to that. Right there, my desire, my book is called Priestess Rise Up. And I know that that's not just for me, like it's this desire that was placed inside my heart because it's meant to help others to rise up, right? And everything that I share in that book. So how do you know it when you feel blocked? Well, first, and I know you who are following me here know that the first step, if you know what it is, you can write it in the comments or in the chat, is always you set the intention, right? You first, and again, it sounds so simple, but it's like, first you set the intention. Beautiful soul, I want to know what I truly want. That is powerful. Just that step, it's like, oh my gosh. It's like the whole universe can now respond like, all right, she wants to know. She wants it revealed. It's like, I no longer want to have blinders or pretend that I don't know or be confused. Like, I want to know, show me. And sometimes you might know, but you just hide it. You hide it so deeply that you kind of forget. I remember recently I had a consult with a woman and she was like, well, I think I want to do this and I want to do that. And she was giving me all these possibilities of ways that she wanted to be of service, but she wasn't sure which way she wanted to go. But the whole time she was sharing the list, I was like, wow, she does not sound excited about any of those things. And she just kept, and she was sharing all the things that her brain were saying were the things she should do. Well, I'm good at this, so I could do that, or I could do this, or I could do that. And I told her, I was like, none of these really sound like things you want to do. Maybe you do, but I'm just mirroring this back. Is there anything that you haven't shared that you really would want to do if you weren't worried about what you should do? And then she got very emotional. And she shared that, oh, well, yeah, there was this art project that had been very dear to her heart that she wanted to complete. But in the past, she had been really, really close, and then something had gotten in the way. And she quite literally had put it in a drawer and wasn't even allowing herself to be with that desire of like, oh, this is what I really want. And immediately, of course, her thoughts came like, but how would that help people? But how could I do it? But how would I make money? And it's like, well, you don't need to worry about that now. Let's just make space for what it is you want. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. The first step is set the intention to know, what is it that I want? Now, if you truly are like, my mind just goes blank. And that's, again, very normal. So a lot of my clients are therapists or wellness professionals, and they already have clients. They're already helping a lot of people, but they just know, like, I know I'm supposed to evolve my service in some way, my leadership in some way. I'm not exactly sure how, but I know that. I've been a therapist for 20 years, for 15 years, for 10 years. And I just know that there's something else or some refinement that I'm meant to do. And so and I don't mean like you have to be a therapist when you're hearing this, but if you're feeling that like I'm just unclear, then the next step, what you can do is write what you don't want. A lot of times it's much easier to know what you don't want. So if you're like, I'm not really sure what I want. So then I ask, my clients or potential clients that I meet with, well, what do you know you don't want? And so, for example, with this, if I follow this example still of the therapist as my client, she might say, well, I know that I don't want to work evenings anymore. I know that I want to integrate more spirituality into my sessions. Well, actually, that's a want, right? So let's stick with the I don't want. I know I don't want to work evenings. I know I don't want to work on the weekends. I know that I don't want to feel depleted after my sessions. Like I gave everything and I feel like an empty shell now. I know that I don't want to feel worried about money. Like I want to help a lot of people and be of service, but I also don't want to be worried about paying my bills or worried about or not be able to take a vacation because I feel I can't take time off. Right? It's like, and so they can give me the list of like, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. So you can do the same. If you're like, I'm not sure, but you can write it down. The don'ts, the things you don't want, and then you just reverse it, right? Then it's like, oh, and it's amazing how, again, we can have so many blocks to knowing what we want that we forget how simple it could be. Like, oh, well, if you don't want to work evenings, and that's actually, I have had clients who've had that example, but that was actually an example in my life. When I left teaching and I was starting to do coaching, well, first I started by doing Reiki sessions. That's the first day I was an energy healer, right? I started doing that, and then I was doing coaching. And I just believed I had to be available at whatever time people needed me. So I saw clients on Saturdays. Sometimes I saw clients on Sundays. Sometimes I saw clients on evenings. Sometimes I saw clients early, like 7 a.m. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to be available at whatever time people need me. And I thought that was the thing I needed to do until very quickly I started to burn out because I was like, it just was not working for me. Evenings just in general do not work for me. And so, but it was really, thank goodness I had my coach that was able to just kind of help me name that desire. I hadn't even asked myself, what hours do I want to have for my work? Because I was now my own boss, but I hadn't even asked myself. And just to say like, I want to work during the day. I don't want to work past, whatever it was at that time, 4:00. And I did. I had all this guilt, like, oh my gosh, but what if there's people that need me at 5 or at 6? But I was like, again, thank goodness I had my coach, I had my soul that was like, no, you need to tune in. When can you be of greatest service? And so same for you. When you make your list of like, these are the things I don't want, then reverse it, because that will give you the map of what it is you do want. Now, here I want to say something that's really important. I don't want you to take away from this that when you're on the path of fulfilling your desires, of really getting what it is you want, right? Those desires that were placed by your soul. Do not misunderstand that this means that you will never do something you don't want to do. Okay? Because there's always aspects. So let me finish that thought. There's always aspects of the journey to achieving your desires that are just unpleasant, that you don't like to do, that maybe you hate doing, maybe you dread doing. So for me, with my business, at first, some of you, I think Roxana, you actually met me when I was teaching, in-person meditation classes. That was part of what I did. I loved doing that. But when I pulled away from that and I knew that I wanted to have a global clientele, I knew, well, I have to do something for people. When I worked in person, people met me in my meditation classes, right? They got to know me. They got to meet me. They got to feel my energy. They came to my classes. So that's how they knew me. But now I wanted to be open to global people. So I was like, how are they going to find me? And, I knew like, oh, I've got to do some things on social media. And I didn't want to do that. That was not a desire in my heart at all. In fact, it was a opposite. I did not want that. So it could be easy for my ego to say, well, that's not a desire in my heart, so I'm not going to do it. But I knew enough to know, like, no, there are parts of my work that I'm just not going to like. And my soul's saying, you got to stretch. This is part of how you get your desire. And so I did it, and I didn't like it. And I flopped a lot of times. And rambled, and then I started doing lives. I mean, now I actually really like doing YouTube lives and Facebook lives, but I had to do stuff. There's still things that are part of my work that I don't really like. Like, I love doing this live, this podcast episode, but then afterwards I have to, get a screenshot for the thumbnail. I have to write the title. I have to write a description. I have to put all the links. I have to put all that on Facebook as well. I have to send a newsletter with the links and the replays. I don't love all that. I really don't. I wish I could just do it here and then it's like, all right, end, and all of that got spread out. But there's parts of this that I don't like, but I do it. So I want you to be clear on that, right? That as you're discovering what it is you want, it doesn't mean there's never going to be things you don't want to do that you have to do. Like, it just is part of it. And so those are it, right? It's like, one, you set the intention. I want to know what I want. Two, if you're really feeling stuck or blank, write a list of what you don't want and then reverse it. Oh, those, and then, okay, this shows me what it is I do want. So let's do a quick inner journey. Close your eyes, take some deep breaths. Feel the earth underneath you. Tune into your heart, and you can bring the palms of your hands over your heart center as I'm doing, like this, if that helps. Even for a moment, that can help, because we don't want to go into the intellect. You want to go into your heart. And you can set that intention if you feel ready to. You can say, beautiful soul, I want to know what it is I want. Now you can say what it is I want for June. What are the results I want to achieve by the end of June? Or what do I want to achieve by the end of this year? We're to the almost at the halfway point. You decide what feels right in this moment. Maybe it's even shorter. Maybe you're like, what do I want right now? What do I want this week? What do I want today? That will help me share my soul's medicine, and with impact, with courage, with love. Reveal to me my own desires. What is it that I want? And if you ask that and you feel fear coming up or anxiety coming up, then say, beautiful soul, help me to clear the blocks to knowing and going for my desires. And just breathe that in. And I just welcome your spiritual guides and teachers that love you unconditionally, that are here to help you achieve your desires, those prayers in your heart, those longings in your heart, to bless you and bless your path. And with that, we bring the palms of our hands together and we bow to each other and our own heart, and we end with a namaste. Namaste, everyone. And so if you want to share in the chat or in the comments what came up for you, that would be beautiful. I would love to read that. I want to remind you, the masterclass is next Wednesday. It was going to be tomorrow and something unexpected came up, but I'm so excited because this is actually giving me more time to make it even more awesome. And it's next Wednesday. It's getting unstuck and in the flow of your soul's success. This is a free masterclass. And at the end, I'm going to share a special offer, and I'll pull some oracle cards, and I'm just very excited. I'll put the link in the comments. You can also go to my website, lisaespinosa.net, under events, and sign up there, or my Facebook page, which is Lisa ESP23, and do it there. I'm so excited. Can't wait to talk to you next week for episode number 88. Oh, 88, it's like a double digit. Oh my gosh, I meant to look at what the topic is. But if you follow me on Instagram or have my newsletter, all the topics, all the titles of the podcast episodes, I share them in the beginning of the month. All right, thank you so much. Oh wait, let me pull a card. I know we had the first one. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. And then let's just do one more. Leap. Look at this. Leap and look at the frog. Frog medicine. So to me, this is like take a leap. Be bold. Be brave. Take a leap to know what you desire, know what you long for, and then take the steps to make it happen. And it might just be a little step. Don't let the how get you stuck. All right. You're welcome, Summer. I'm so glad you're here. All right. Talk to you soon, everyone. See you next week. And I hope to see you at the masterclass. I'm so excited. Bye.